So let's have a look where you'll find the Pigment Sprinkles in the catalogue. So this is the 2019 annual catalogue and I'm on page 179. So you'll find the Pigment Sprinkles down here. So as you can see, they're $40, but in that $40 you actually get 6 different colours of the Pigment Sprinkles, and they will last forever and ever because you only use such a tiny amount, as you'll see in a moment when we start using them. A couple of other things here which you'll also find useful with this technique. Over here, the aqua painters, I sometimes use those to wet the cardstock or the watercolour paper, and the Stampin' Spritzers. Normally I would use those, but I'm in the middle of a stamp room cleanup, so I've temporarily misplaced them. They're in the bottom of a plastic container somewhere. So while I emptied my drawers out, I got some new drawers in my room. So Stampin' Spritzers, I'll just be using another spritzer today. And then with the watercolour paper, we've now got this fantastic Fluid 100 watercolour paper, which you'll find on page 169. Thoroughly recommend this. It's 100% cotton. It's got a really great weight, and you get 10 sheets in a pack, and they're 5 by 7 inches. So I find either using half or even a quarter in lots of instances is plenty. So that's absolutely fantastic as well. So let's have a look at a couple of different basic ways to use the Pigment Sprinkles. So they come in this nice little box, and this is Stampin' Up's own version. We used to have brushos, but the great thing is now we've got our own version. We have much more control over the colours. So they're actually in Stampin' Up colours, which is fantastic. So we have Mango Melody, Gorgeous Grape, Granny Apple Green, Melon Mambo, Bermuda Bay, and Daffodil Delight. The other awesome thing is that the packaging is way better than we used to have with the brushos. Remember, with the brushos we had to put little pin pricks in them and we didn't know what colour they were. Well, with the Stampin' Up ones, you've got the colour labels on the top, which is fantastic. You take the lid off and you've actually got this little salt and pepper sort of shaker, which you can open and close to allow you to sprinkle them, which is absolutely fantastic. So let's have a look at a couple of the colours together. Now today I'm just showing you super basic ways, 2 super basic ways to use the sprinkles. And the first one is you can actually apply them directly to the Fluid 100 and then add the spritzing, or we're going to spritz first and then add the sprinkles. Now the important thing is you only need a tiny amount. The other important thing is make sure you've got some paper towel handy and some extra paper towel in case you need to do some blotting. So I'm just going to put the tiniest amount around. So this is the Melon Mambo, and then this one here is the Daffodil Delight. So we'll pop a little bit of that one on. I find it tapping it, holding it and tapping it is the best way to control the amount that you're using. Okay, let's try that. So that was completely onto dry watercolour paper, and now I'm going to spritz. So I'm probably about 20 centimetres away, and this is where you'll start to see the magic happen as the water hits the watercolour paper. Isn't it gorgeous? I love it. So just leave it a little to see what it's doing. Now she's getting really carried away. And then you can see the drops on there. You can move things around as well to get different effects. Now I like to have it all messy and inky and whatever, so I'm probably not going to do a lot more than that with that one. Maybe a bit more water up here. A bit more in this corner and that corner. And then I'm going to pop that aside to dry. Now it's best to completely leave these to air dry. And you can dry it at the end, or you can blot it with some paper towel if you like. I'll show you what happens if you blot it with the paper towel, because there's a little bit. You can see how that lightens right. So in that case, I would actually add a little bit more, excuse me, of the Melon Mambo, because otherwise it's not going to have the colour that I want to have it, the depth of the colour. While we're at it, let's add a little bit more here. So the colour is so intense, which is what I really love about these. And there's lots of different ways you can use them. So we'll be doing some other techniques, but today is just the very basics. Add those in, and I'm not going to do any more. I'm just going to pop this one aside. Up the top here to dry. Got some more paper towel. So I'll mention the other way that you can do it is you can actually add the water first. Now, if you don't want to have things moving around, you can actually tape this to a bit of cardboard or tape this to your mat, and that'll actually stop the warping. The Fluid 100 is a great watercolor paper and doesn't warp as much as some of the watercolor papers, but it does still warp a little, and so you will get that effect. You can see there's the tiniest amount of Melon Mambo already on there. So this time, because I've already wet it, now you can also wet it with an aqua painter, but you'll see the magic happen as soon as I start to sprinkle, which I really love watching this. Actually, that was Daffodil Delight I was using, not the Melon Mambo. So those two are very similar. See how it's warping like that? And if I'd taped that down, that wouldn't have been happening. But I'm still going to pop that on there. And so you'll see me using these cards on my blog soon. Definitely wouldn't be wearing a white t-shirt while you're doing this technique, because you'll end up with things all over the place and all over your hands. So I'm going to leave that one there. And again, let that dry, and we will see how those turn out in a moment. So let's put those to the side, because by the magic of television, I've actually got some other pieces here which I've actually used and let dry. I've actually made and let dry. So here you've got your Mango Melody, you've got your Bermuda Bay, which is actually, it could also be Pretty Peacock really. It really coordinates beautifully with Pretty Peacock. You've got your Gorgeous Grape, you've got your Daffodil Delight, your Melon Mambo and your Granny Apple Green. So that's a really good piece to show you how they look, each of the colours. And then here's a bit where I've had some play to make some backgrounds. This one is just Bermuda Bay, so you can see the different colours of the sprinkles in there. So some Bermuda Bay, and as I said, that real tealy Pretty Peacock colour as well. So that'll make a beautiful background. This one is Gorgeous Grape together with Melon Mambo, which I think is gorgeous as well. And then this one here is just a very light sprinkling of the Melon Mambo, and you'll also see that I obviously had a little bit of the other crystal somewhere around. So they're amazing at their ability to just go places. So be very careful when you're sprinkling them, and certainly have lots of areas where you can clean up and prepare to get inky. But that's half the fun of it, isn't it? If you love being artistic with your stamping, you definitely want to get some of these because so you get the 6 colours, they're really vibrant, they're Stampin' Up colours, so the coordination would be perfect, and the dispensing of them is just so fantastic in comparison to the brushos because of our great little containers with the colour-coded lids. So let's see what we have actually made with these now. Now I'm back to show you some of the cards that I made using the Pigment Sprinkles, the pieces that I made earlier on. Some other pieces that I've had around. So this first birthday card, as you can see, I've used the Pigment Sprinkles piece as my background. And so I've just attached that with snail. And then I have used a couple of other things. So the colours I've used in this one are Melon Mango Melody, and some gorgeous grape, which you can see down the bottom. Then I've got the stitched nested labels. I've cut a piece out there. And then I've used the well-written dies to cut out the happy and this little bit behind the stems, which is gorgeous. And I've deliberately taken bits out of some and left other for a bit of interest. And then this is the stamp set, which coordinates with the well-written dies, which I've just white embossed onto black cardstock. Now, when you're using the Pigment Sprinkles pieces, I think it's really important that you use quite bold greetings, because you don't, otherwise it'll just get overtaken by the background. So that's why I tend to do white on black and quite large greetings when I'm using the Pigment Sprinkles on cards. But I love how that turned out, nice and bright. Second one we've got here is a male version. Again, super, super simple. I've just used the Bermuda Bay background that I made. And even though it's Bermuda Bay, I think it's an absolute perfect match for Pretty Peacock. So I have die cut the word happy from the Merry Christmas die set. And I've just popped the birthday word in, the same as I did on the last one, leaving off the adhesive rhinestones. And again, I've used one of the stitched nested labels. So that could be a male version. Excuse me. For this third card here, what I've done is I've actually used the Pigment Sprinkles piece to actually die cut the letters. Excuse me for my coughing. And I feel it sounding a bit hoarse today. I've got hay fever and it's got into my lungs and triggered my asthma. So a little bit coughy and a little bit puffy today. So I've used Melon Mambo and Mango Melody. Does anyone else get those mixed up? Goodness me, they're hard to say fast. To cut the letters out. And I've used the hand-lettered prose dies to cut those out. And then I've just used an ink wash on the background for that one. That isn't the Pigment Sprinkles, but you could very easily have done the Mango Melody Pigment Sprinkles. I just chose to do that because I was wanting to have a background for the card quite quickly. And so some splattered and some ink wash, just using an aqua painter, and some drops of the re-inker, the Mango Melody re-inker. So I love how that one turned out. I'm loving Mango Melody and, goodness, Melon Mambo together. So yeah, that's a little friends card. And then this last one is quite simple. So I have actually white embossed onto the Pigment Sprinkle piece that I had created. So again, it's the Mango Melody and the Melon Mambo. And I've used white embossing powder. Excuse me. Lucky you can't catch anything through the video, hey? And then the stamps that I've used is Healing Hugs. So, and I've used the stitched rectangles to give a bit of interest around those, but otherwise I'm just going to leave that one as it is. Very clean and simple, but I think, again, when you're using the Pigment Sprinkle pieces, they're so bold by themselves that there's not a lot else you need to do on the card, as you can see from the ones that I've done. So thank you very much for watching today.